Welcome to a moment of calm. You don't need to do anything. Just get comfortable, breathe slowly, and let this story gently guide you to sleep. Let us know in the comments how many minutes it took you to fall asleep. Sweet dreams. The deepest act of strength does not always consist in moving forward without stopping. Sometimes, true strength appears when you choose to pause, to breathe, to acknowledge that you are not okay, and allow that truth to exist without judging it. We live in a world that demands constant stability. You are expected to respond quickly, to be fine, to keep producing, to show no cracks. In the middle of that silent pressure, accepting your fragility becomes an act of inner resistance. It is not surrender. It is awareness. A space where words do not seek to impose themselves, but to accompany you. Where each reflection does not aim to give you immediate answers, but to remind you of something essential. The calm you keep searching for outside was never far away. It has always lived within you. Feeling better is not a final destination you reach one ordinary day. It is not a reward or a goal achieved once and for all. It is a constant practice, a silent training that takes place in daily life, in how you think, in how you interpret, in how you choose to respond. The Stoics understood this centuries ago, long before self-help manuals or modern psychology existed. They already knew that the human mind needs habits to sustain it in the face of the world's inevitable disorder. They did not seek to avoid pain, but to learn how to live with it without losing balance. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the quality of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Today, that phrase is repeated easily, but its true weight is rarely assumed. It is not just another inspirational quote. It is a direct invitation to take responsibility for your inner state. No one else can do it for you. Stoicism was not born from comfort or from a philosophical ivory tower. It was born from real suffering, from loss, exile, illness, death, and constant uncertainty. Seneca wrote about serenity after being unjustly exiled. Epictetus spoke of inner freedom after having been enslaved. Marcus Aurelius, even as emperor, wrote to remind himself every day that power did not make him invulnerable or eternal. Their lives demonstrated an uncomfortable yet liberating truth. Well-being is not built from the outside, but from what you decide to do with what happens to you. You do not choose your circumstances, but you always choose your response. Today we live in a time where everything seems urgent. Success must arrive quickly. Productivity cannot stop. Recognition appears to measure your worth. In the middle of that constant noise, modern Stoicism does not seek to take away your ambitions or goals. It seeks to give you back control of your mind, because you cannot control what happens, but you can control the meaning you give it. Ryan Holiday summarizes this clearly when he says that the obstacle does not block the path, it is the path. What makes you uncomfortable, what hurts you, what challenges you, does not appear to destroy you. It appears to shape you. Fire does not eliminate steel. It tempers it. That is why, when we talk about habits to feel better each day, we are not talking about empty routines or mechanical lists completed without awareness. We are talking about inner discipline, about a different way of perceiving your life. Because feeling better does not mean eliminating problems, but learning to walk among them with serenity. The first habit is the conscious pause. Before reacting, before judging, before responding, breathe. Stop for a moment. Between impulse and action, there is a space. In that space, wisdom is born. The Stoics knew that whoever learns to master their breathing begins to master their mind. Each time you choose not to respond from the wound, but from calm, you are practicing the art of inner mastery. The second habit is morning clarity. Beginning the day by reminding yourself that you will encounter difficulties, complex people, and unfair circumstances. Not to anticipate suffering, but to prepare yourself emotionally so that nothing takes you by surprise. Today, you can apply this by writing intentions, not tasks. Intentions. How you wish to respond, what attitude you want to sustain, what energy you decide to protect. You do not choose what will arrive, but you do choose from where you will receive it. The third habit is disciplined focus. Epictetus taught that it is not events that disturb human beings, but the interpretation they make of them. Each time you lose energy on what you cannot change, you move farther away from peace. James Clear expresses this in modern terms. Small acts, repeated consistently, transform your identity. You do not need to change your entire life today. You only need to choose where you place your attention now. The fourth habit is detachment from the outcome. In an era obsessed with numbers, validation, and recognition, this idea can feel uncomfortable. From a young age, we learn to measure ourselves by what we achieve, by what others approve of, by what we manage to display. Without realizing it, we begin to live tied to expectations that do not always depend on us. The Stoics proposed something different. They did not fight to control the fruits, but to care for the roots. They understood that true power does not lie in guaranteeing success, but in acting with integrity regardless of the outcome. When you cling too tightly to winning or to avoiding loss, you become a prisoner of the external. Seneca warned that whoever lives focused on the result lives in constant anxiety, because the result is never fully in your hands. Instead, when you focus your energy on doing what is right, on giving your best in the process, something is released. The fear of failure loses strength. Serenity finds space. Working with excellence, without obsession, is a profound form of emotional freedom. You do what depends on you and allow the rest to follow its course. It is not indifference, it is applied wisdom. The fifth habit is lucid gratitude. This is not naive optimism nor a denial of pain. It is conscious, mature gratitude that recognizes both what is pleasant and what is difficult. Marcus Aurelius wrote that each day received is a loan, not a guarantee. Nothing is assured. Nothing belongs to us forever. When you understand this truth, something changes in the way you look at life. Even harsh experiences begin to transform, not because they stop hurting, but because you begin to see them as part of the path, not as a personal injustice. Lucid gratitude turns complaint into acceptance, anxiety into presence. It does not eliminate problems, but it reduces the unnecessary suffering that arises from resisting the inevitable. Gratitude is not resignation. It is recognizing what is, without fighting against it. The sixth habit is the brief retreat. In the midst of constant noise, uninterrupted information flow, dedicating a few minutes each day to being with yourself becomes a radical act. No screens, no music, no stimuli, just you and your mind. Seneca said that nothing belongs to you except your mind. And even so, few people truly inhabit it. We spend most of our time reacting, distracting ourselves, escaping from our own thoughts. Silence, far from being empty, is a space of reunion. In those brief moments of stillness, you do not need to change anything. Just observe, breathe, allow thoughts to pass without clinging to them. Today we call this meditation or mindfulness. The Stoics understood it as the art of governing attention. That brief retreat can make the difference between reacting from impulse or acting from clarity, between getting lost in noise or returning to your center. The seventh habit is nightly reflection. At the end of the day, before sleeping, Epictetus advised reviewing one's actions, not to punish oneself or seek perfection, but to learn. The day thus becomes a laboratory of self-knowledge. Today, you can practice it with simple questions. What did I do well today? What can I improve tomorrow? What do I need to let go of? This is not about judging yourself, but about understanding yourself. Whoever reflects, evolves. And whoever evolves inevitably begins to feel better. Nightly reflection transforms mistakes into lessons and unconscious repetitions into conscious decisions. Little by little, inner chaos organizes itself without violence. The eighth habit is voluntary simplicity. The fewer things you need to feel complete, the freer you become. We live surrounded by excess. Objects, commitments, stimuli, other people's expectations. Everything competes for your attention. Everything demands importance. Simplicity is not lack. It is choice. It is deciding what deserves your energy and what does not. Mark Manson expresses this clearly when he speaks of the art of prioritizing what is essential. When everything matters, nothing matters. When you choose carefully, your life becomes lighter. Simplifying does not only mean organizing physical spaces, but also letting go of unnecessary commitments, repetitive thoughts, and relationships that drain your energy. In doing so, you discover something profound. What was essential was not always what you had, but who you were when you did not need so much. The ninth habit is silent service. Helping without expecting recognition, giving without announcing it, contributing without applause. The Stoics understood that serving others was a way of reminding themselves of the unity of humanity, stepping out of the ego and reconnecting with something larger than oneself. Seneca wrote that no good is truly good if it is not shared. In a world that promotes individualism, silent altruism becomes a profound form of well-being. By helping, you do not only benefit the other, you transform yourself. Serving without expectation reduces the burden of the self. It diminishes the need for validation. It restores meaning. And the 10th habit is radical acceptance. Accepting is not surrendering. It is understanding that there are things you cannot change and stopping the fight against them. Not because you approve of what happened, but because you understand that resisting the inevitable only prolongs suffering. Marcus Aurelius wrote that loving what happens is a higher form of wisdom, not because everything is pleasant, but because everything can be integrated. When you accept, you recover energy. You stop wasting strength denying reality and begin building from what is possible. That is where peace is born. Not when everything is fine, but when you are fine with what there is. Imagine now that you begin to apply these habits in your daily life. Not perfectly, not all at once, but little by little. One day you choose to breathe before responding. Another day you decide to write an intention upon waking. Another day you simply choose not to react as you used to. Without realizing it, something begins to change. Stoicism is not practiced in theory. It is practiced in uncomfortable moments, in the slow-moving line, in the irritating message, in the unexpected criticism, in the loss you did not ask for. That is where training becomes real. Many people believe calm arrives when everything outside is in order. The Stoics understood the opposite. Inner order is what allows you to move through external disorder without breaking. That is why they insisted so much on daily practice. They were not seeking sudden enlightenment, but progressive stability. The human mind tends to anticipate. It relives the past or projects itself into the future. Much of suffering does not come from what happens, but from what we imagine might happen or from what we wish had been different. Stoicism teaches returning to the present, not as an escape, but as an anchor. When your attention settles in the now, many worries lose strength. They do not disappear, but they stop dominating you. You begin to distinguish between what is happening and the story your mind builds around it. One of the central teachings of Stoicism is accepting that life offers no guarantees. Everything is temporary. People, circumstances, even versions of yourself. Resisting that fact only creates tension. Accepting it does not make you passive. It makes you flexible. Being flexible does not mean lacking principles. It means adapting without losing your center. Like water that changes form without losing its essence. The Stoics admired that ability to move forward without rigidity, to sustain oneself without breaking. In daily practice, this translates into small decisions. Choosing not to take something personally, recognizing when a reaction comes from fear rather than reason. Pausing before saying something that does not build, not because you must always remain silent, but because you choose to respond with awareness. Serenity is not the absence of emotion. It is presence with mastery. You can feel sadness without sinking into it. You can feel anger without letting it control you. You can feel fear without allowing it to decide for you. That is true Stoic strength. Throughout the day, you will find countless opportunities to train. Every interruption is an invitation. Every difficulty, a reminder. Every discomfort, a space for practice. You do not need ideal circumstances. You need attention. At night, when the noise diminishes, one of the most valuable moments of the day arrives. Reflection. Not as reproach, but as observation. Reviewing how you acted, where you reacted from impulse, where you managed to remain calm. Not to judge yourself, but to learn. This nightly habit transforms daily experience into knowledge. It allows you to close the day with clarity instead of dragging tension into rest. Little by little, sleep becomes deeper. The mind feels accompanied, not demanded. Voluntary simplicity also begins to reflect in your way of living. You stop filling every space with noise. You learn to say no. You reduce unnecessary expectations, not because the world stops offering, but because you choose with greater awareness. By simplifying, you discover that many burdens were self-imposed, that not everything required your energy, that not everything deserved your concern. That clarity restores lightness. Silent service, in turn, introduces a different dimension. Helping without protagonism reminds you that you are not isolated, that you are part of something larger, that your well-being is not separate from the well-being of others. When you act from that place, the ego loses weight. Comparison weakens. The need for approval slowly dissolves. A more stable satisfaction appears, less dependent on the external. Radical acceptance, applied day after day, becomes a refuge. Not because everything is easy, but because you stop fighting what you cannot change. You recover energy. You recover presence. Accepting does not mean approving harm or denying injustice. It means recognizing reality as it is, so you can respond with dignity. From there, action becomes clearer, less reactive, more effective. Imagine now that you sustain this training for a week. Not perfect, not flawless, just consistent. You begin to notice that certain things no longer shake you the same way. Not because they disappeared, but because you changed the way you look at them. That is the secret of Stoicism. It does not promise to transform the world. It promises to transform you. And when you change, your experience of the world changes too. You do not need grand gestures. You need small, repeated acts, a carefully chosen thought, a restrained reaction, a moment of silence, a conscious decision. That is Stoicism turned into practice, not as an ancient philosophy, but as a living tool, a way of being in the world without losing yourself in it. There are moments when, even practicing all of this, the load feels heavy. Days when the mind understands, but the body is tired. Days when you know what to do, but lack the strength to do it. Stoicism does not ignore that reality. On the contrary, it begins from it. The Stoics never promised a life without pain. They promised a different relationship with pain. They understood that suffering is part of the human condition, but they also knew that much of that suffering multiplies when we reject it, when we interpret it as personal failure or as a sign of weakness. Accepting that there will be difficult days does not make you pessimistic. It makes you honest. And from that honesty, a more stable strength is born, less dependent on external circumstances. Marcus Aurelius wrote many of his reflections in the midst of wars, illnesses, and personal losses. He did not write to inspire others. He wrote to sustain himself, to remind himself again and again that he could choose his attitude even when he could not choose what was happening. That is one of the deepest teachings of Stoicism. Inner control does not eliminate pain, but it prevents pain from ruling you. It is not about hardening yourself, but about remaining whole. In modern life, challenges take other forms. They are not always wars or exiles, but constant pressure, comparison, unrealistic expectations, mental overload. Stoicism remains applicable because it does not depend on external context, but on how you relate to it. When the phone vibrates nonstop, when demands pile up, when you feel the day no longer belongs to you, that is where this invisible training comes into play. Not as an escape from the world, but as a way of walking through it without losing yourself. Modern Stoicism does not ask you to isolate yourself or disconnect from reality. It teaches you to be present without being dragged, to participate without dissolving, to act without reacting from impulse. Each habit you practice becomes a kind of anchor. The conscious pause brings you back to the body. Morning clarity prepares you emotionally. Disciplined focus protects your attention. Detachment from outcomes lightens your load. Lucid gratitude softens your gaze. The brief retreat reconnects you with yourself. Nightly reflection organizes experience. Simplicity reduces noise. Silent service expands meaning. Radical acceptance restores energy. None of this happens all at once. It is not a dramatic change. It is a silent transformation, almost imperceptible but constant. Over time, you begin to notice that you react less and choose more, that certain things no longer dominate you, that you can hold discomfort without adding guilt or resistance, that inner silence appears even when everything outside remains the same. Stoicism does not seek to make you indifferent. It seeks to make you stable, capable of feeling without overflowing, capable of acting without losing your center. There is a profound difference between resignation and acceptance. Resignation is born of exhaustion. Acceptance is born of clarity. When you accept, you stop wasting energy, denying what is, and begin using it to respond in the best possible way. At that point, life stops feeling like a constant struggle. Not because everything becomes easy, but because you stop fighting the inevitable. Serenity does not eliminate problems, but it changes your relationship with them. Imagine now that instead of constantly asking why something is happening to you, you begin asking how you wish to respond. That small shift moves the focus from victimhood to responsibility, not as a burden, but as freedom. Because when you choose your response, you regain power. And that power depends on no one else. Stoic training is not noticed in speeches. It is noticed in everyday behavior, in how you speak when you are tired, in how you listen when you disagree, in how you act when no one is watching. It is a silent practice, invisible to others, but deeply transformative for the one who lives it. And even on days when you feel you are moving backward, those days are also part of the path. There is no linear progress. There is constancy. Choosing again, practicing again, beginning again. As long as you breathe, you can begin again. That idea, so simple, holds a powerful truth. No matter how many times you stray, you can always return to the center. There comes a moment when you understand something clearly. You do not need to become another person to feel better. You do not need a different life, ideal circumstances, or absolute control over what happens. You need a different relationship with what is already happening. Stoicism points exactly to that. Not to escape the world, but to inhabit it with greater awareness. Not to deny pain, but to move through it without losing yourself in it. Not to harden yourself, but to become stable. Over time, habits stop feeling like isolated practices and begin to integrate. The pause appears naturally. Attention becomes more selective. Reaction loses speed. Response gains depth. Not because you force it, but because you trained it. There are days when you will wake up tired, days when the mind will be scattered and the body heavy, days when you will feel you are not advancing enough. Stoicism does not tell you to ignore that feeling. It reminds you that even on those days, you are practicing getting up when you do not feel like it, breathing when anxiety tightens, continuing when motivation is low. All of that is also inner training. All of that is also strength. Stoicism does not promise that you will stop suffering. It promises that you will learn to suffer with meaning. And when suffering has meaning, it stops being a constant enemy and begins to become a teacher. Marcus Aurelius understood this firsthand. He lost children, faced wars, endured illness and betrayal. And yet, he never stopped reminding himself that his peace did not depend on the external, but on the opinion he formed about it. "The world is change," he wrote. "Life is interpretation." That idea remains valid today. You cannot control the waves, but you can learn to navigate them. You cannot stop the world from moving, but you can maintain your center while it does. The 10 habits you have walked through are not commandments or rigid rules. They are tools, small doors that return control over the only thing that truly belongs to you, your mind. The conscious pause teaches you not to react from the wound. Morning clarity prepares you emotionally for the day. Disciplined focus protects your attention. Detachment from outcomes lightens your load. Lucid gratitude transforms lack into acceptance. The brief retreat reconnects you with yourself. Nightly reflection turns experience into learning. Voluntary simplicity clears unnecessary noise. Silent service reminds you that you are not alone. Radical acceptance allows you to flow with the inevitable. Each of these habits is a muscle of serenity, and like any muscle, it grows stronger through practice, not perfection. You do not need to do them all. You only need to choose one and repeat it consistently. There will be moments when you feel you are moving backward, moments when you react as you used to. That does not invalidate the path. It is part of it. Real progress is not linear. It is cumulative. As long as you keep choosing awareness over impulse, presence over haste, and acceptance over resistance, you are moving forward even when it does not seem so. Inner peace does not arrive when everything is resolved. It arrives when you stop demanding that everything be resolved in order to be calm. It arrives when you learn to be okay with what is, without giving up on growth. Perhaps you will not always be able to feel good, but you can always learn to be at peace. And that peace, though silent, sustains everything else. If this message resonated with you, do not take it only as momentary inspiration. Take it as a reminder that you are not failing, you are training, that each day you choose to respond with a little more awareness, you are building something no one can take from you. Stoicism is not an ancient theory. It is a living practice, a way of moving through life with dignity, clarity, and inner strength. And if you decide to walk this path, not because it is easy, but because it is real, you will discover something essential. The world may remain noisy, uncertain, and imperfect, and still, you can remain calm.